I remember when I was young, in the early days of the internet, it was June 2001. I was on a forum called VGF, Video Gamers First. Everyone was talking about the new Sonic game. They were saying it was the best Sonic game ever made. I was like, well damn, I gotta play it. So I begged my dad to buy me a Dreamcast. By August it was down to $80. I finally got one. I was so happy to finally be able to play it. And then it came out on GameCube a year later. So the moral of this story is... forget it. So, Sonic Adventure 2, the last Sonic game on a Sega console. Truly the end of an era. But what a run. 10 full years. Released in 2001 to mark the 10th anniversary of the franchise, says so right here on the cover. Boy, that makes me feel old. Sonic Adventure 2 was going to set new ground by allowing you to play as the hero side, which consists of Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, or you could play the dark side, which consists of Dr. Eggman and newcomers Shadow the Hedgehog and Rouge the Bat. What an interesting idea. Play as the good and the bad guys. I remember all the video game forums back in the day said, best Sonic game ever made! Even Metacritic gave it high marks. But does Sonic Adventure 2 still hold up? Well, let's pop it in and see! So, like I said before, you choose between a hero and dark story. Rather than picking a character and sticking to it, you alternate between a certain character depending on the narrative, for example. You might go from Sonic to Knuckles to Tails back to Sonic. I don't mind this, really it makes sense for the narrative. I wish other games would do that. So for this summer I'll be combining both stories together as best as I can. We open with Dr. Eggman breaking into a military base known as Gun to steal a top secret weapon that his grandfather was working on. Eggman gets inside and finds the weapon. Unsealing it, he comes across something unexpected.
Are you trying to spoil my plans again? Wait a minute, you're not Sonic. This is impossible.
My name is Shadow. Since you were so kind to release me, my master, I will grant you one wish.
So, Shadow thinks he's a genie. I don't know why he ever says that, just, it never comes up again. So regardless, Shadow tells Eggman to meet him on the space colony Ark. Meanwhile, Knuckles and Rouge the Bat are having a showdown over the Master Emerald. Rouge wants it for herself, but Eggman tries to steal it, and Knuckles breaks it, so now Knuckles and Rouge are competing to see who gets the emerald pieces first. Yeah, more on that later. So anyway, Shadow begins committing crimes, and Sonic is blamed and thrown in jail. He breaks out of the helicopter and makes his way out of the city, and the two confront each other.
What? It all starts with this. A jewel containing the ultimate power.
That's the Chaos Emerald! Now I know what's going on. The military has mistaken me for the likes of you!
I never quite understood that. How do people mistake these two? Sonic is blue. He saved the world from utter annihilation last game. Shadow is black. His quills are different. Nothing about these two says that they're the same person. Have people just never seen another hedgehog before? Do they mistake Amy for Sonic? Well, then again, hedgehogs aren't blue, so... Anyway, back on topic. Shadow gets away and Sonic is arrested again, even though I think he probably could have just run away. Let's get this out of the way. Shadow is not motivated by world domination like Eggman. You see, Shadow is haunted by his past. One day, 50 years ago, Gun invaded Space Colony Ark and shut it down. Shadow was in a capsule while this girl named Maria made one last plea to Shadow before she died.
I still remember what I promised you. For the people of this planet, I promise you revenge.
How'd you come to that conclusion? She never said anything like that. Eggman goes to the Space Colony Ark and meets up with Shadow. Shadow tells him of the Eclipse Cannon. With the power of the Chaos Emeralds, they can charge up the cannon and hold the world at ransom. That's when Rouge enters and makes a deal to work with them, though she's really working for Gun and is trying to undermine Eggman. So Eggman, Shadow, and Rouge head back to Prison Island to find the 3 Chaos Emeralds stored inside. Suddenly, Amy shows up out of nowhere, mistaking Shadow for Sonic, because, yeah. Anyway, Eggman's about to get Amy, but Tails, who was on his way to rescue Sonic from Prison Island, intervenes and saves Amy. So Rouge heads to get the Chaos Emeralds, while Shadow sets up a bomb to destroy the island. Amy and Tails manage to bust Sonic out, while Rouge gets herself locked in the vault. Shadow has a brief moment where he realizes that he can't let Rouge die, but he brushes it off. Sonic and Shadow confront each other.
Hey, that's...
That blue hedgehog again, of all places.
I found you, Faker.
Faker? I think you're the fake hedgehog around here. You're comparing yourself to me? Huh, you're not even good enough to be
I'll make you eat those words.
That was rude. You didn't even let me finish my sentence. So Sonic and Shadow fight, but it's interrupted by the fact that the bomb is going to explode. Sonic manages to get Amy and Tails off the island in a tornado, while Shadow teleports out with Rouge using Chaos Control. So sometime later, Shadow is thinking about Maria. He doesn't know why he's been created by the Professor, Gerald Robotnik, and he and Maria debate the people on the planet, but that's when Eggman decides to show off the cannon's power, using it to blow up half the moon. I'm pretty sure that would cause seismic activity, but I guess we'll ignore that. Sonic, Tails, and Amy see the moon, where it's revealed that Tails has the last Chaos Emerald. Rouge shows Eggman that Tails has it because he received it when he saved Station Square from the missile attack from the last game. Just one little problem. The yellow Chaos Emerald was in perfect chaos at the time, so how could Station Square have it to give it to Tails? So by complete coincidence, Knuckles meets up with our heroes and decides to stick around when he hears that Rouge is helping Eggman. Sonic and Tails leap into the President's limousine and are able to track Eggman's location to the Space Colony Ark. Heading inside Eggman's pyramid base, our heroes find a shuttle that's conveniently inside the pyramid. Even though Eggman is shown to have a teleporter to the Ark, so why couldn't they have just used that? The shuttle just seems kind of unnecessary. So the shuttle goes into space where it gets bumped by an asteroid, causing the pieces of the Master Emerald to go flying off, which Knuckles responds by nearly crashing the shuttle. So Sonic and Tails and Amy make a plan to use a fake Chaos Emerald to switch and disrupt the cannon. Eggman boards the Ark and takes Amy hostage. Meanwhile, Rouge accesses the main computer and gets some information about Project Shadow. But it's then that she detects the last remaining pieces of the Master Emerald, and she and Knuckles have one last scuffle over them. Rouge nearly falls into the lava despite being a bat and capable of gliding. Knuckles saves her, and she hands over her pieces of the Master Emerald, who decides to reform it over the lava. Yeah, sure, that isn't dangerous. Meanwhile, Sonic heads to the meeting, where he prepares to give the fake emerald to Eggman. But the Doctor suspects treachery and traps Sonic in a capsule, thus tricking Tails into revealing the fake emerald. Eggman sends Sonic out into space where it explodes, seemingly killing Sonic.
My admirable adversary.
But fear not, Sonic was able to use Chaos Control to warp out of it. I'm sorry, what? The explanation is flimsy, but just how did Sonic do this? I can buy it having the same wavelength and properties, but Sonic has never tried to perform Chaos Control in his life. Isn't that something only Shadow was designed to do? Regardless, Sonic heads off to the cannon to stop it from firing. Meanwhile, Rouge prepares to steal the remaining Chaos Emeralds, but Shadow stops her, realizing her true identity as a government spy, which seems like he's done his homework, but Rouge confronts him over Project Shadow. Is he really the ultimate life form? Eggman contacts Shadow about someone trying to get to the Eclipse Cannon, and Shadow heads off to stop him, while leaving Rouge right there with the Chaos Emeralds. Yeah, what's stopping her from just stealing them and running off? Sonic and Shadow confront each other. Shadow expresses surprise that Sonic is alive, but nonetheless, Sonic just repeats what he's always said.
You actually saved me, you know.
It was a Chaos Emerald, wasn't it? But there's no way you could have activated the Chaos Control using an emerald that's fake. So, there's more to you than just looking like me. What are you, anyway?
What you see is what you get. Just a guy that loves adventure. I'm Sonic the Hedgehog.
I see. But you know, I can't let you live. Your adventuring days are coming to an end.
Meanwhile, Tails defeats Eggman, but he escapes with the last Chaos Emerald, but Sonic is able to destroy the cannon. Ha! Just look at that grin. That's classic Sonic. But Eggman puts the last Chaos Emerald in the reactor, but a warning sign flashes, ending the story for now in a cliffhanger. How shall I sum up the story so far? Well, it depends on a lot of stupidity. I've already pointed out just how dumb it is that nobody can tell Sonic and Shadow apart, but yet, I find it to be a guilty pleasure. As far as being dark goes, this is as far as Sonic ever needed to go, which, unfortunately, a certain other game didn't get the memo of. But I'll sum up the story after we finish the last story. For now, let's cover presentation. The lip syncing and graphics are incredibly improved over Sonic Adventure 1. Character mouths now flap normally, rather than the exaggerated proportions of Sonic Adventure 1. The voice acting is also improved. Ryan Drummond actually gives a pretty good performance when he's about to die.
I'm counting on you, Tails. And Amy, take care of yourself.
Tails' voice still sounds like a kid reading directly from a script, and Knuckles can sound weird at times.
Hand over those Master Emeralds. Give them to me.
But unfortunately, sound mixing is terrible. Lip syncing doesn't match the English dialogue at all, and characters often talk over each other's lines, or sometimes get cut off before they can finish. But overall, Sonic Adventure 2 is a huge improvement in this regard. As far as the gameplay goes, well, Sonic Adventure 2 takes the 6 gameplay styles of Sonic Adventure 1 and reduces it to 3. Action stages for Sonic and Shadow, shooting stages for Tails and Eggman, and treasure hunting for Knuckles and Rouge. There's also no hub worlds this time around, and thank God for that. Just going from action stage to action stage. That's how I like it. Keeps the pace moving. No fishing stages either, and that's a huge improvement. Although in the Dreamcast version, you can see little cameos of Big in various spots, apparently because the director of the game hated the backlash against him, so he put him in as a way to get back at all the people who hated him. Huh. Characters can get upgrades like they could in Adventure 1. Except now they are scattered throughout the action stages because there is no hub world. I didn't get every upgrade for every character for this playthrough, but that's alright. Only a few of them are mandatory. I'll go into some of them when I talk about the gameplay styles. So first is Sonic and Shadow stages, the action stages. These levels are actually pretty fun. They control just as good as they did in the first game. You can still do the homing attack to make your way forward. You can spin dash, which I don't find myself using too often. You can now grind on rails, which I think is an awesome addition because it helps keep up the pace. Sonic's even wearing soap shoes this time around, with full endorsement I might add. You can now be much more athletic, such as when you leap off the end of a ramp, you can do a trick. You can even flip off these poles, which doesn't always work, I find. Sonic gets 6 levels, while Shadow only gets 4. It's kinda odd, but hey, Sonic's the main character. Sonic and Shadow can get the Lightspeed Dash again, and I like this mechanic much better, as you just press the B button, and Sonic and Shadow will automatically hone in on a trail of rings. Much better than charging up your spin dash, but unfortunately, sometimes this method doesn't always work. I press the B button, and they won't go. It's just an annoying thing. They can also get the Flame Ring, which lets you break through metal crates. The Light Speed attack, which I can't really get to work too well. Damn! Sonic can get the Bounce Bracelet, which lets you bounce up and down to get the higher places. I actually really like this as a method. It's something like a double jump. Not sure why Shadow doesn't get an equivalent, probably because he only has 4 stages. Sonic also gets the Magic Hands upgrade. I wonder what this does. Oh, it turns enemies into action figures. As for the stages, well, most of them are pretty fun. City Escape starts off with Sonic snowboarding down the street, causing countless property damage. But what a great way to start the game. Radical Highway is alright. It's like Speed Highway, just with Shadow instead of Sonic. Metal Harbor is another fun level. It's here that you get the Lightspeed Dash. It even finishes off where you have to catch a missile before it takes off. More on that later. Green Forest and White Jungle both have a timer since it's before the bomb goes off. Pyramid Cave has a lot of backtracking to get keys to open the doors. Skyrail is not a bad level. Very short though, only took me 2 minutes. Crazy Gadget. Oh lord, this level takes the anti-gravity of Doomsday Zone from Sonic and Knuckles and completely turns it up to 11. You're constantly having to change gravity, which can really throw you off, and you got Eggman mocking you all the while. Finally, there's Final Rush and Final Chase, which are pretty fun final levels, as they mostly involve grinding on rails above Earth. It's one of the few levels where all the bottomless pits make sense. So Sonic and Shadow's levels are the highlight of the game for me. Now, let's move on to the treasure hunting stages which star Knuckles and Rouge. Well, first off, let me say that these levels are more explorative like they were in Adventure 1. Knuckles and Rouge play exactly the same, except Knuckles punches and Rouge kicks. But they both run so incredibly fast. In fact, I think they run faster than Sonic and Shadow, which should not be. Unfortunately, you know how I said in the last review that the treasure hunting levels were an experiment? Well, unfortunately, instead of refining it, they took a step backwards in every category. The radar is neutered. Remember how in the first game the radar would automatically hone in on whatever emerald piece you were closest to? Well, now it only focuses on one at a time. My first time playing, I came across the third piece that I wasn't supposed to find until later. There's a hint system, but it's neutered as well. Here's how it worked in Sonic Adventure. Yeah. Instead, you get a line about where the piece is, which doesn't tell you much and forces you to search blindly. So these levels can take a very long time. Why is that a problem? Well, more on that later. As for the levels, Wild Canyon is relatively short, and so's Dry Lagoon, which requires you to use this turtle to move around. Pumpkin Hill is at least spacious and makes sense for gliding and exploring, but Aquatic Mine? You gotta change the water level. It reminds me of the water temple from Ocarina of Time. Security Hall. Oh god, you only have 5 minutes to find all 3 Chaos Emeralds. And what makes it worse is that Eggman is constantly berating you. Ugh, shut up! Egg Chamber and Death Chamber are just annoying because of the way they're spaced. Oh, and Meteor Herd and Mad Space? Ugh, I hate these levels. Especially Mad Space because the levels are huge and the hidden systems are reversed. Yeah, overall, I'm not a fan of the treasure hunting stages. Finally, that leaves us with the Walker stages. Which leaves me the question, why is Tails in a mech? Well, apparently Tails wasn't going to be playable in the game originally. Sure, he'd probably still be in cutscenes, but playable? Nope. The only playable characters were going to be Sonic, Knuckles, and Eggman. But when fans complained, Tails was pretty much shoehorned in, and they made him a Dr. Eggman clone. Don't get me wrong, using a walker makes sense for Eggman, but why Tails? Why can't he just fly around like he could in Adventure 1? Oh, whatever. Anyway, the shooting stages play like Gammas from Sonic Adventure 1, constantly holding down the action button to lock onto enemies and fire as many as possible. Fortunately, there is no timer, but you are packing a health bar which you must fill up with rings or first aid power-ups. But one thing I find most annoying, and this kind of applies to all the stages, but enemies take a habit of coming out of nowhere and you have to tilt to avoid them. As for the stages, well, Iron Gate and Prison Land are nothing really major, though Lost Colony has a bit of an effect as you're going through the dark and you have to light the corridors by destroying enemies. Weapons Bed is actually kind of fun since you have the elements of surprise over most of your enemies. Mission Street just screams, "Fly in your plane to get away, Tails, why are you going on foot?" Hidden Base and Sand Ocean can be annoying because you have quicksand, and if you get caught in that, your ass is as good as dead. Eternal Engine can get daunting because you have to take these long jumps down, but the camera doesn't let you see what's coming. Cosmic Wall, however, is a fun level because you have no gravity, so you can do really high jumps, but it goes on way too long. Took 8 minutes to finish this level. As far as other problems with the gameplay, well, yeah, I do wish the levels were a bit more open to exploring new pathways. That was part of what made the original Sonic the Hedgehog game so memorable. It was always picking which path you want to go. Here, you basically get stuck with the same pathway. Sure, there's some, but it'll always take you back to the same linear pathway. Also, the camera is still a problem. The angles can be hard at times, or it can lead to cheap deaths into the many bottomless pits that this game has to offer. Son of a! Boss battles are back, and they are more or less on the same level as Adventure 1 for me. You got your mech battles, fighting a ghost that comes out of nowhere. This game predates Luigi's Mansion by a couple of months, right? How interesting. The Egg Golem, which you have to fight in different ways as Sonic and Eggman. There are character battles, and they're a little better than Adventure 1's. Sonic and Shadow's battle consists of dancing around each other. Tails and Eggman's battles are just shoot until the other one dies. And Knuckles and Rouge's fight is hard to get a lock on your opponent because of awkward camera control. I do kinda like Sonic and Shadow's final battle, since it's a high-speed chase which reminds me of the race against Metal Sonic. As for the music, well, it's about the same as the last game. Characters have specific theme songs which are enjoyable in a cheesy kind of way. Sonic and Shadow stages now have some kind of rock music going on, while Knuckles' levels have some kind of rap going. Who would have guessed that? While Rouge has some kind of smooth jazz going for her. In contrast, Tails and Eggman's music are alright, but nothing stands out in particular. But there's one song that this game is known for, and it's the most famous song in Sonic history. I'll talk about it when we get to the final boss. Emblems are back, but this time around there's 5 in a stage. Fortunately, you're given a world map so you can visit whatever stage you want. There's completing the first mission, then usually doing some tasks like get 100 rings, find the lost Chow, etc. But there's something else this time around. For the first time ever, you are ranked at the end of a stage, with A being the best. Basically, depending on your actions, your score will go up. This usually involves killing enemies, doing tricks, getting rings, and doing it all really fast, and don't die. Nothing is more frustrating than getting really far in a stage, getting a really high score, and then dying near the end. Then you have to restart and do the entire stage all over again. Like here in Metal Harbor, where the key to getting an A rank revolves around getting to the top of the missile. You can't just jump onto it right here. No. You have to take the alternate path and go higher. Damn! No! Oh, he ran into the wall. Come on! Ha! I did that in 4 tries. Eat your heart out, Johnny! Getting A ranks in Knuckles and Rouge's stages basically involve not using hints, since that takes away your score. Oh, and I absolutely hate the Tails and Rouge driving missions. Yeah, these are the most worthless parts of the game for me. They even made a kart racing game out of it because they felt like adding a kart racer because Mario has Mario Kart? Whatever. I didn't talk about the flying missions in Sonic Adventure 1, but it makes sense to have a plane stage in Sonic. Especially the missions where you can't run into wall or cars because those cars come right in your path no matter what you do. Before we move on to the final story, let's talk about the Chow Garden. You can do pretty much the same thing you could do in Adventure 1. Except now you can collect these strings from enemies to have your Chow get more powerful. You access the Chow Garden by collecting these keys from stages. But taking care of your Chow is a very time-consuming matter, and not one I particularly had time for. I mean, I have other projects to do, but what do you get for getting all the emblems? Well, there is a reward this time around, but I'll show you later. Let's just begin the final story. So the cannon won't fire when Eggman notices a message from his grandfather, Gerald Robotnik. Sonic and Knuckles prepare to meet up with Tails and Amy when Rouge appears and tells them that the Space Colony Ark is on a collision course with Earth. We see that Gerald contacts the people of Earth and tells them that the Ark will crash into Earth. I love that Gunn purposely recorded this scene before shooting him. So they did nothing to stop the Space Colony Ark? Isn't that why they shut it down in the first place? Oh, whatever. Anyway, Gerald was devastated by his granddaughter Maria's death and pretty much went insane. There is a way to stop the Ark from crashing. It requires using the Master Emerald to stop the energies of the Chaos Emeralds. Knuckles somehow shrunk the Emerald down. Huh, didn't know he could do that. So the heroes and villains realize that they have to team up to save the planet.
Then, let's get to work!
That was an unusual way of speaking. So first you begin as Tails, and switch to Eggman Open Doors, and it's not too bad. You get to make use of Time Stop, which means you get to kill these Chaos monsters before they can attack you. Rouge's level is all about pressing a switch to unlock the water flow, and Knuckles' part, well, make sure you got the air necklace from Aquatic Mine, because otherwise this part is almost impossible. But once you press the switch to open the final door, it's back to Sonic, whose level is about what you'd expect. At least this time, if you die, your score doesn't get reset to 0. So Amy is complaining about being forgotten again, but notices that Shadow isn't helping. So Amy decides to help by convincing Shadow to join their cause, finally giving Amy some kind of purpose in this story. Shadow doesn't want to help, as this has been his plan all along. Amy gives the whole speech that humans might be selfish, but we are still inherently good, and that's when Shadow remembers that Maria didn't want him to destroy all of humanity, she wanted him to make everyone happy. Yeah, the implication here is that Gerald altered Shadow's memory so that he'd want to destroy mankind. Shadow sheds a tear as he realizes that rather than fulfilling Maria's last wish, he has doomed it.
That promise. That's what Maria wished for. I've got to go now. I have to keep my promise to Maria and you.
Sonic and Knuckles head to the shrine, noticing that it looks a lot like the shrine from the Master Emerald. Then the prototype of the ultimate life form shows up. And this thing was actually hinted by showing up in pictures. Though how Gerald went from huge lizard fame to hedgehog is anyone's guess. Maybe he saw the monoglyph from Sonic and Knuckles. I mean, it makes sense that Gerald went to Angel Island because it's designed like the shrine from the Master Emerald. So Shadow shows up to fight the Bio-Lizard, and I can honestly say, this boss really annoyed me. You gotta watch your rings and make sure you don't run into him. It goes on forever. Oh, son of a... I was so close! Anyway, you finally beat it, and Sonic and Knuckles make it to the shrine. Knuckles stops the Chaos Emeralds with the Master Emerald, but the prototype uses Chaos Control to merge with the colony, and is keeping it on its collision course. Sonic and Shadow use the Chaos Emeralds to transform into Super Sonic and Super Shadow, and head off into space for the final showdown. What can I say about this battle? It's a nice setup, flying around in space, and you get the awesome Live and Learn playing. However, what's annoying is just how much the final hazard throws at you, and you only have 5 minutes to beat this boss. I swear I homing attacked into those boils, but they keep bouncing off or getting knocked back. It's obvious that Shadow isn't doing too well, but eventually the final hazard will go down. So now Sonic and Shadow head to stop the Ark from destroying the Earth when Shadow gets reminded of Maria one last time.
Now, Shadow! Chaos Control!
Maria, this is what you wanted, right? This is my promise I made to you.
Wow! Shadow died. I mean, really, he died. Somebody actually died in a Sonic game. So some wrap-up is had. Eggman questions if his grandfather really meant to destroy them. Rouge decides to quit her job, while Sonic is despondent over Shadow, but he hides this.
Sayonara, Shadow the Hedgehog.
You know, maybe this is a poignant story. Shadow's sacrifice has a lot to do with the question, are we inherently good or evil? It's the central theme of the game. Are we humans proposed to be selfish bastards? But there is inherent goodness in all of us. Or I'm reading way too deep into a game that's intended for little children. So yeah, I admit Adventure 2 story mode has a lot of problems. There's tons of plot holes, a lot of really silly moments, but I do appreciate what they were going for. I mean, I don't expect too much from a Sonic game, but ultimately it's nice to have a story. I suppose you could count this story as a guilty pleasure for me. It's stupid, but enjoyably stupid, and has some surprisingly nice moments. So that's Sonic Adventure 2. Overall, is it good? Is it bad? Is it overrated? Well, to be honest, I will admit that Sonic Adventure 2 hasn't aged well as a whole. I enjoy Sonic and Shadow stages, I don't fully enjoy Tails and Eggman stages, and I cannot stand Knuckles and Rouge's stages. But I suppose this game does have its charm. I hear it all the time. If it wasn't Sonic the Hedgehog 2 that brought you into the franchise, it was Sonic Adventure 2. Unfortunately, While I find that neither Sonic Adventure has aged very well, it still has a lot of the same flaws from Adventure 1, and in some ways it regresses, but also advances in others. But is it my favorite Sonic game of all time? No. My favorite Sonic game of all time is still Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and for now, I don't see that ever changing. But as the last Sonic game on a Sega system, it has its place in history, so I'll tip my hat to Sonic Adventure 2 for that at the very least. Before we end this, let's look at Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, released for the Nintendo GameCube a year later. This version has an opening that is so iconic in its own right. What this game offers is the multiplayer. Yeah, you could do multiplayer in the Dreamcast version, but here everyone's unlocked from the start, which I like. You can play as Amy, Metal Sonic, Tikal, Chaos, and Chow and Dark Cow, who I think was big in the Dreamcast version. So if you want to race while screwing them over with powers, or compete against each other in treasure hunting stages, this is the mode for you. Oh, and I'm also showing off this version because on this, I did get all 180 emblems. And what's your reward? Ah, yeah, a complete 3D recreation of Green Hill Zone. That's awesome. Well, that wraps up this review. Next time we'll be looking at Sonic Heroes. Thanks for watching, this is RetrospectGreg signing off. Please hit that like and subscribe button, have yourselves a fantastic day, and take care.